Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I would now request the panelists to please come to the stage and take their seats. So should I begin? Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed speakers and distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. On behalf of the Institute of Region Studies and the Climate Vulnerable Forum V20 Group of Finance Ministers, it is my honor to welcome you all to today's high-level dialogue on China's role in advancing green development across the Global South. IRS and CVF V20 both have a shared commitment to promoting climate resilience and ambitious climate action. Today's event brings together policymakers and climate advocates to explore China's contributions to promoting sustainable growth and climate resilience in vulnerable regions. To begin our proceedings, we will start with the recitation of a few verses from the Holy Quran.
وأنزلنا من السماء ماء بقدر فأسكناه في الأرض وإنا على ذهاب به لقادرون.
And we have sent down rain from the sky in a measured amount and settled it in the earth. And indeed, we are able to take it away.
Jazakallah. To formally commence the session, I now invite Ambassador Johar Salim, President of the Institute of Region Studies, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to welcome you all here today to discuss this very important topic. And first of all, I would like to express my special appreciation for our co-organizers today. CVF is doing a wonderful job under the leadership of Sarah Jane and Hamza, and it's great to see all this good work, and we are always very pleased to collaborate. We have done many events in the past, some very useful discussions, and we plan many more in the future, inshallah. So this joint event, we envisage it to serve as a crucial platform to explore South-South cooperation and how this cooperation is anchored in equity, shared interest, and mutual learning, and how it could help unlock the climate resilient growth across the Global South with special support from China. China's development in the last some decades, the phenomenal development, I would say, the phenomenal economic growth, which is termed as a miracle by many academics and analysts, taking 800 million people out of poverty. Initially, it entailed a lot of environmental cost. I remember the times when China's biggest cities were facing the challenge of smog, pollution. China had the challenge of acid rains, polluted rivers, multiple challenges rather emerging from the rapid industrialization. But how China has offsetted, how China has neutralized, how China has addressed those challenges, I think that's a great lesson for many developing countries. And now China is playing a pivotal role in advancing the green development across the global south. Firstly, in China itself, China's high development growth model or high quality development model envisaged by President Xi Jinping, that has a special focus on green development. And that is changing everything, not just in China, but beyond. China is now an agent of development and growth in the world, BRI, and many other initiatives. We are part of that through CPEC. And the CPEC itself is undergoing a great change. It was focused on infrastructure and energy production in its initial phase. But now the focus in terms of energy has shifted to renewables. In terms of infrastructure, again, sustainable infrastructure. And technology transfer, sophisticated technologies. Green development is now the key phrase even within the CPEC. And why? Because Pakistan is now facing the challenge which China faced some decades ago. Look at our cities, some of the most polluted in the world now. Look how our glaciers are melting. How we're facing the problem of deforestation. Shrinking water resources. Contaminated waters. The use of plastics, which is literally permeated everywhere now, the plastics and this waste which is not biodegradable. So there's much to learn, much to change. And our collaboration with China, our largest economic partner, holds immense value for Pakistan. But China's role is not just limited to Pakistan or countries in its neighborhood. It's for the entire global south. Global south, which faces a defining challenge now. On the one hand, it bears the intensifying climate impacts, ranging from floods and droughts to biodiversity loss and food insecurity. On the other hand, it is striving to grow economically, to reduce poverty, underdevelopment, to have the energy resources it needs. So reconciling these rather conflicting currents is not easy. And it requires a profound transformation in development pathways. One that is green, equitable, and future-oriented. So it is in this context that China has emerged a key enabler of green development. It offers a combination of financial resources, which of course is the backbone. Without financial resources, there's not much you can do. But also technological innovation and policy leadership. Policy and its implementation is extremely important. BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, with its green development agenda, offers new opportunities for so many countries in the world. And it would enable the Global South to rethink infrastructure, diversify energy portfolios, and enhance climate adaptation strategies. At IRS, we recognize the strategic importance of partnerships rooted in research, diplomacy, and mutual benefit. Our collaboration with CVF V20, I always wonder why it's such a complicated acronym. Okay. But it sounds good. Sounds very modern. CVF V20 reflects a shared commitment to elevating the voices of those who are most at risk from climate change, while facilitating evidence-based thinking and research to find solutions to overcome structural vulnerabilities. We are very privileged to host such an esteemed group of experts who not only bring vision and insight, but also expertise that is needed to navigate the complex terrain of this subject. I am confident that today's deliberations will generate meaningful insight and practical recommendations that can inform future policy, investment, and cooperation. And as always, we intend to prepare research and to prepare reports based on the discussion that we have today and policy papers together, and then present them to the policymakers, not just within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, not just within the Ministry of Climate Change, but all other, Ministry of Planning, for instance, and all other stakeholders. With these words, I'd like to thank you all, and I'm looking forward to a very insightful and meaningful discussion today. I thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful remarks. I am pleased to announce the signing of a memorandum of understanding preceded by Ambassador Johar Salim, President of IRS, Mr. Hamza Haroon, Director, South Asia, CVF V20. I congratulate both parties on the signing ceremony of the MOU. It is now my pleasure to invite Ms. Sarah Jane Ahmed, Managing Director and Finance Advisor to the Climate Vulnerable Forum and the V20 Group of Finance Ministers, for her remarks.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible. I had some slides prepared, but I think, oh yes, I can share them. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Jawhar Salim, President of IRS, for partnering with us for this very important conversation. Today is not only about this very critical discussion, but today marks the beginning of our partnership with the Institute of Regional Studies. We are very grateful and we look forward to moving or to discussing many of these key issues that you highlighted in your opening remarks. And it's a pleasure as well to be speaking to this August gathering. Pakistan is a nation that has long demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity, and it's a privilege to share this room with some of the country's most noted representatives of climate action. The Climate Vulnerable Forum, CVF, and V20, a group of finance ministers, count on Pakistan not just as a member, but as partners in a shared journey toward climate secure and economically prosperous future. We are not only more resilient when we stand together, but we are also more capable. So this is a quick introduction to the CVF V20 in case some of you may not have heard of us. The CVF is an independent intergovernment organization headquartered in Accra, Ghana. CVF is represented by its heads of state, while V20 is represented by its finance ministers. It is a growing group of 74 member states spanning South Asia and Central Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, Pacific, and Latin America. The CVFE20 represents 23% of the global population, with 1.75 billion people, who, despite contributing only 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions, are paying the highest price. With V20 countries holding less than 9% of the shareholding in the Bretton Woods institutions, it is imperative that we develop durable alliances aimed at accelerating the realization of our shared objectives. The CVFE20 continues to highlight the economic toll of climate change forced on its member states, worsening the debt situation and further taking away scarce public resources from education, health, and infrastructure, injuring the ability to build the critical adaptive capacity needed to withstand current and future climate catastrophes, and for us to take advantage of what green transformation has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a very pivotal moment for a partnership within the Global South. Climate vulnerable nations face an acute development and climate finance crisis as we face a higher cost of capital and more capital outflows. We must work to reverse this trend through an unprecedented opportunity to build a greener future through partnership. China and climate vulnerable countries such as Pakistan can collaborate to transform the climate challenges into drivers of sustainable prosperity. The hard truth is that existing aid and external finance falls short of what vulnerable economies require. ODA, official development assistance, and fiscal space are shrinking, forcing painful cuts in essential services. Over the past 2 decades, climate impacts have already cost our countries about 20% of growth, translating into wealth destruction. This is a crippling setback to growth and development. As disasters strike harder and faster, V20 countries need $490 billion a year by 2030, 5 times more than the $90 billion currently flowing to fund climate action, development, and nature protection. Over the last months, we have seen significant changes to trade policy. And I know that we are no stranger to volatility, but what's different now is the response. We have an opportunity to strengthen partnerships by design, not only to hedge volatility, but to build a system we can trust. That means shifting from opportunistic alliances to institutional cooperation. This means China's upscaled role is crucial by helping close the gap with its resources, technology, and investment partnerships. We can work together to identify key enablers of public and private investments that will support green growth and jobs amidst climate shocks. China is a global leader in green technology, and its support can significantly accelerate our economic transformation. For instance, China today dominates not only in clean energy manufacturing, but clean energy innovation. China will soon hold 80% of the world's solar panel manufacturing capacity, alongside leading capabilities in wind turbines, battery storage, transmission upgrades, and electric vehicles. This massive scale has improved affordability of power for developing countries because renewables is the least cost option. High carbon development, as we see, um, traps countries into poverty by diverting capital away from resilience and social services. And so, by harnessing Chinese innovation and energy systems that and end energy poverty, improve affordability without locking in the high emitter, and we commend China's commitment to supporting sustainable growth in climate vulnerable developing countries. So under the Belt and Road Initiative, as previously mentioned as well, Chinese investments in renewable energy abroad are rapidly rising. 2024 saw a record of $11.8 billion in Chinese overseas renewable energy engagement. This is a 60% jump over the previous year. This is the highest green investment level since the BRI's inception, reflecting a decisive shift toward clean powered development. The CVFE20 countries have not stood still. We have proactively prepared climate prosperity plans to map out our transformation to secure a future of resilience, renewable energy, and shared prosperity. These are national investment strategies that contain pipelines of climate-smart, bankable projects in areas such as renewable energy, climate-resilient agriculture, sustainable transportation, and green industrialization. These are high-impact, investment-ready pipelines, and these can be the kinds of ventures that Chinese companies, banks, and investors can help scale for mutual benefit. By investing in CPPs, China can help turn these plans into reality that deliver outsized impact with speed and scalability. We see China as a vital player across the entire supply chain and value engineering within the Climate Prosperity Plan projects and in support of our country platform approach to delivering the CPPs. Chinese participation can span from financing and co-investment through institutions like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Silk Road Fund, public-private partnerships, manufacturing diversification, and expertise in solar panels, battery storage, smart grids, electric buses, to on-the-ground project execution. For vulnerable countries, it means getting transformational projects built, creating jobs, and generating growth while building resilience. For China, it means new markets, new partnerships in the Global South, or expanded partnerships in the Global South, and a chance for its green industries to expand internationally. By investing in our climate prosperity plans, China would be making a strategic investment in shared prosperity. In closing, let us recognize the opportunity that's before us. By uniting our efforts, China and climate vulnerable countries can usher in a new era of climate resilient growth. We have the CPPs, we have the technology, much of it thanks to China, and we have the shared commitment to act. What remains is to mobilize the necessary financing and cooperation on a larger scale. China's leadership in green development, investment, knowledge sharing, diplomatic support can also help shift the momentum for climate vulnerable nations. This partnership is essential for ensuring that no country is left behind in the transition to sustainable economies. Together, we can transform climate vulnerability into climate prosperity, achieving development that is resilient, inclusive, and environmentally friendly. Let this be the legacy we create, a South-South partnership that drives shared prosperity on a livable planet for generations to come. I want to thank distinguished speakers as well, Eric Solheim, Mr. Wang Shengji, Political Counselor, Embassy of the People's Republic of China. I also want to thank the panelists. We look forward to the partnership with IRS as we work towards regional climate prosperity. And I also look forward, of course, to the panel discussion today and eagerly look forward to meeting all of you in person at some point this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah Jane, for your framing reflections. I would like to invite the guest of honor of today's event, Mr. Zulfikar Yunus, Additional Secretary for Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, for the keynote address.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. Ambassador Jawhar Salim, Sarah Jane, Mr. Hamza Haroon, ladies and gentlemen, development partners, Excellency Mr. Wang, a very warm afternoon to all of you. Let me begin thanking both CVF and Institute of Regional Studies for organizing this very timely and important dialogue. As we are embarking upon our partnership with China, I think these kind of interventions are essentially critical to brainstorm the ways and to brainstorm as many areas as we can benefit from. So as you know, basically, I was just talking to Mustafa, who is Executive Director, Park China Institute, that we have been talking a lot, but we need to have more substantive work on ground. And that is essentially the projects that we should have. So I think these kind of dialogues, they basically generate the momentum required to understand and to basically catalyze these initiatives into substantive programs. For Pakistan and many of our partner countries, we are at a very crucial crossroad. Our economies are facing challenges such as high cost of capital, substantial debt, limited fiscal space, and an ongoing threat from climate-related catastrophes. On the positive side, our young people are brimming with innovative ideas and entrepreneurial energy. What we need now is to harness and unleash this potential. And the dialogues like this actually help transform these ideas, these energies into substantive projects. As you know, we stand with China at one of the most significant crossroad of our history, and China being our most trusted friend and ally, we can benefit from Chinese technological prowess and from the climate-related innovations that China has made. So in that context, again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like that under the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Government of Pakistan is already, working in close collaboration with the Chinese government. As you might be knowing that we have already added to our grid more than 13,000 megawatt of capacity. And our green corridor, CPEC green corridor that we are now working, has prioritized solar, wind, and hydro projects, targeting 60% of the clean energy. And for Climate Change Ministry, I think this is some of the priority areas. As you might be knowing, we already have our nationally determined contributions, international commitment to UNFCCC, to the globe, about our renewable energy, and about our energy vehicles. So we are transforming our fleet of vehicles also. So these kind of these interventions help a lot. We are also taking important collaborations with China. So we have recently are collaborating with the Blue Tech Clean Air Alliance. This is an intellectual powerhouse in China, which have worked miracle with the Chinese clean air. So we are seeking their help and support, and also technological innovation to clean our air quality as well. As you might be knowing, a few months ago, we have serious issue of smog in Lahore. So we are collaborating with them for that. Similarly, with PCI, Pakistan-China Initiative, we are also having a working group with core Chinese ministries to work on climate-related initiatives, and this I promised with Mustafa that this initiative we would make sure that we have substantive projects coming up from Pakistan-China partnership. So indeed, from the Climate Vulnerable Forum, Pakistan is also again actively working with Climate Vulnerable Forum. So we are, with the Climate Vulnerable Forum, we have finalized our CPP, which is Climate Prosperity Plan. And this prosperity plan is not just a plan on paper, but we have also shared some really innovative and climate positive projects with the CVF. And during COP29 also, we have a very successful high level event where Prime Minister was part of that event. We collaborated with CVF to a climate finance roundtable, where we voice for the vulnerable countries. As you might be knowing, Pakistan is one of the top 10 vulnerable countries due to climate change. And so CVF is helping us with that. And we have also some more exciting plans with CVF. And hopefully with Hamza here, with Sarah and President Nasheed there, we would be able to do some really good work together. On the Climate Change Ministry's perspective, some of the key initiatives that we would like that maybe with China and with South partnership we undertake, I would like to highlight few of them. So first of all, as you might be knowing, that we have notified our carbon market policy in last December, and it is going to unleash the potential of carbon markets globally. So we are now in the process of finalizing our carbon market rules and other ecosystem. And let me also share with you that we have been, during the COP29, interacting with other carbon market players, and especially with the development partners like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, UNDP, and their carbon market, outfits which deals with the carbon market. And they told us that our policies are quite, modern and more investor friendly when we talk about the carbon market. So we are now building up on those gains that we have, and we already have at the moment 3 host party LOIs we have already issued. One of them is around 20 to 25 million US dollar investment in our water wastewater sector. And these are also, we are also working to set up a carbon market secretariat, full-fledged carbon market secretariat. And we would like that our carbon market should be more of an open and transparent mechanism instead of being run by bureaucratic hurdles. So that is an area where Chinese companies, Chinese investors, if they are looking for offsetting their carbon burden, so they can, collaborate with Pakistan. Similarly, we have worked with the World Bank on green taxonomy. So now we have finalized our green taxonomy document, which very clearly lists the areas where green investment and green, financing is possible. And we have this classification system which will be available soon. So that will help us, motivate our commercial banks to invest more on our climate related projects. Because at the moment, the challenge that we are facing, while we have international climate finance available from other sources, but the private finance is a really at the lowest ebb as compared when we compare to countries of the same development level as Pakistan is. So we are hoping that with the taxonomy there, I think commercial banks will be coming up more financing, will be supporting more financing for the climate projects. We have also, started this global shield against disaster risks. We were among the pathfinder countries for Global Shield. Global Shield, you might be knowing, is basically an initiative and platform to support climate vulnerable countries for pre-arranged financing. So we carried out a countrywide consultation with all the provinces, with all the stakeholders, with the federal divisions, with the NDMA, and all the other agencies and private sector also. And then we have submitted a very comprehensive request for support. They call it request for support. So once that is approved, then we are now ready to develop insurance and financing instruments for basically any disaster, God forbid, hit Pakistan. So we have ready solutions for those. Similarly, we are now working, as you know, our national adaptation plan has been developed with the help from all the provinces and their input on our NAP. And now we are financing the projects. We are estimating the finances for the projects required for NAP. And FFD4, which is going to be in Spain in end June, we are preparing projects, and some of the NAP projects we are also planning to take there. And we are also preparing a pipeline of projects for future events as well, or future. And here, I think our collaboration with China would be very useful. We can, seek support. We can offer good projects to Chinese investors where we can, collaborate. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Global South is no more just responding to global trends. We are shaping them. With China as a partner, we possess the tools, resources, and shared commitment to lead a new era of inclusive, climate resilient development. The areas I outlined, these are these are not only will modernize our industry, they will also help create resilience. So I think with the help of our partners in Global South, as well as with the leading role from China, I think we will be able to definitely reshape our future, our greener future, our more climate resilient future. So I would once again thank CVF, Institute of Regional Studies, Ambassador Jawhar Saleem, for organizing this dialogue. And I think there is a need to have more of a similar dialogue converging into substantive, projects, substantive areas where we can collaborate. So thank you very much once again for your patience listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zulfikar Yunus, for your inspiring words and continued leadership on Pakistan's climate priorities. I will now invite Mr. Hamza Haroon, the co-host of today's event, to present the souvenir to the Additional Secretary, because he has to leave for other commitments. I once again thank you, Mr. Zulfikar. Now I request our distinguished speaker, Mr. Wang Xingjia, Political Counselor, Embassy of People's Republic of China, to kindly deliver his keynote address.
And my friend, brother Mustafa, and also to distinguished young scholars. And I do not know whether Eric saw him and Miss Sarah still on the line. And ladies and gentlemen, first of all, really proud and to be invited here, because This is not first time for me to join the event organized by the IIS, and this time it's co-hosted by CVF. I think you too have helped to grasp the themes and the momentums as well as the priorities of the current era, so which is really appreciated. And in this regard, I always tell my team, we have to learn from Pakistan, because Pakistan not always just being consistently to follow all those emerging areas like the green development and climate diplomacy, and also being very active in participating in that with tangible results, which was well acknowledged by the international community. So being a partner of Pakistan as well as a member of the Global South, I think China should also just go hand in hand with Pakistan to make our own contributions in this regard. And to starting from the topic of today's seminar, I think whenever you come to study one country's role in a particular area, you have to study from first its own inspirations or intentions, and second, its capabilities, and third, the platform for it to display, and as well as the actual achievements have been already made, and the future potentials for collaborations. So I will briefly state from all these above mentioned perspectives. So first, start with China's own commitment. And I also think this is the largest contributions for China to make into the campaign of the global green development. That is its own practice. And I think Pakistan friends always ask us that to share some of the knowledge and experience in governing the country. I would say to study the green development of China is a very good starting point, because this green development has been well integrated into China's overall economic development model, because we have a very, theoretic framework in this field, and we also have some concrete targets like the carbon peaking and the carbon neutrality goals. And we also have some kind of the supporting mechanisms to supervising the implementation of all these goals. So actually it is a very comprehensive and scientific framework in this model. And I'm sure that many people have heard about the saying from our President Xi. He said that the lucid waters and the lush mountains are invaluable assets. And this year marks the 20th anniversary for this idea to be brought forward. And this is only one part of what we call the Xi Jinping thought on eco-civilization. And with this guidance, China has also come forward the idea that to synergize the high-quality development together with high level of ecosystems protection. So this is also something that very important and needs to be understood from China's achievements. And I would like to share some of the figures and facts. For example, like the air quality, the ratio of good days actually comes to 87% of the year. And with the fastest pace of air quality improvement globally. And the water quality in the year 2024, the proportion of the national surface water rated as good now reached 90.4%. And take my personal experience, for example, last summer, I visited Qinghai province. You know this place where the three rivers originates from, namely the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, and the Yalozangpu River. And they are all well preserved with extensionary care. So speaking of this, I would like just to add one more point. Just as our President Xi once indicates that the good ecological environment is the most equitable public product. We have to emphasize that. So starting from this, personally, I would like to share one more point. That is the natural resources including the water resources, are the invaluable assets belong to all mankind. This is not something that first come, first served, and take it for granted, and let alone it can be used as the geopolitical weapons to threaten other countries. So this is very important to get acknowledged. And also for China, we have built the largest clean energy systems. Now, every third of the electricity consumed by Chinese society actually comes from the clean energy. And now China's cumulative wind power capacity is now 5 times the size of the entire UK grid. I know my friend from the UK is also here, just to give a vivid comparison, just to everybody so they understand better. And China's solar capacity is nearly 4 times that of the United States. So these are the accomplishments achieved by China. So I would like to say that actually we are moving forward step by step to achieve the goal, that is to building a beautiful China. So this is not enough. Actually, we have more ambitious plans that is also integrated into China's concept for the international governance. I do not know if you also have heard that we try to bring an ideal world from 5 perspectives. One is, of course, to have the lasting peace. Second is the universally security. And the third is common prosperity. Third is open and inclusiveness. And the fifth, and also the last point, is clean and beautiful. So not only beautiful China, but also a clean and beautiful world. So this is one part of the aims that we're striving for the community, for the shared future for mankind. And we say that, and we do that accordingly. So how to achieve this? I think there was one technical phrase actually impressed me a lot ever since that I was posted in Denmark, which was the host country for the COP15. That is called common and differentiated responsibility. So how to understand this? I would say green development somehow is a high standard for development. You know, look back into the history, every developed country, the industrial ones, they all have undergone a period of development that is not that green. We have to admit that, right? So why we should impose those high standard green development to the developing countries? We have to clarify and to make sure that this kind of the responsibilities and the confinements actually needs to be addressed differentiatedly. So this is also a very important point. I know Pakistan, as I said, that being active to promoting the climate diplomacy and help to set up the loss and damage fund, right? And right now it achieved $700 million US. But somehow, if compared with the ambitious goal that should be achieved in year 2030, needs to allocate 290 or to 580 billion US dollars. So still a long way to go. So we have to face this kind of reality. And also most importantly, and also astonishingly to witness, is that the only superpower right now on the world, and also the largest emitter of the greenhouse gas in history, actually announced to withdraw from the Paris Agreement and practice those kind of the unilateralism and protectionisms. So we can see the challenges faced on us. So meanwhile, we are advocating the unity, self-reliance of all those global souths. We should never give up to stick to those principles of common and differentiate principle, nor to give up to uphold the fair and just international order. Despite this, China is making our own efforts positively. And on different platforms and mechanisms, with concrete input as well as impressive output. So I would like to elaborate briefly from 7 perspectives that you can understand the China's role in leading the global south to address the green development. First, under the framework of the UN, we have signed 54 MOUs with 42 developing countries. Since year 2016, China has mobilized over 177 billion Chinese yuan, equal to $24.5 billion, to boost the climate efforts globally. And we also implement the South-South Climate Cooperation Initiatives, and under which we help to provide with more than 80 countries to address the biodiversity. And second is under the framework of the BRI. And we have established the BRI International Green Development Coalition. I think Eric maybe will elaborate more on this point, as well as the BRI Ecological Environmental Protection Big Data Service Platforms. There's a program called Green Silk Road Envoy Program, which provides for more than 120 developing countries to train altogether 3,000 talents in the green campaign. And this target will accumulate to 10,000 capacity building opportunities. And the third framework is called the Global Development Initiatives, under which I think we have already set up the $4 billion that is the Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund, and in which $1.2 billion is addressed to the climate change. And we also try to allocate $12 billion, those financing to provide with those global development project libraries. And nowadays, more than 200 small and beautiful projects have been already implemented. So this is on the framework of the GDI. And fourth is the framework of the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organizations. In the year 2018, under the initiative and promoted by the Chinese side, they have signed the concept of environmental protections for member states. And now we are working to sign the agreement of intergovernmental cooperations on climate change. And this year, also, you know that China takes the rotations for the presidency, and we set the theme of the year 2025 as the Sustainable Development Year. And I'm sure a lot of the activities will be made into this regard. And the fifth framework, that is the BRICS. In the year 2024, President Xi has made our initiatives to promote the idea as the Green BRICS. And we also set up the Energy Study Center and help to transfer some of the photovoltaic technologies to developing countries. And the sixth aspect is the supply chain. Actually, China helped to establish the world's largest and most complete new energy industry chain, supplying 70% of the world's photovoltaic modules and 60% of wind power equipments. So all this leads to the result that the cost of wind and solar power dropped by 60% and 80% respectively. And also the production and sales of EV of China now ranking the world #1 for 9 consecutive years. And the seventh and also the last point is through the financing part. I think just Eunice also mentioned that the green bond market in the year 2023 issued more than 800 billion RMB. And we also promoted the reserve project for those financing part and allocated the credit amount 210 billion RMB with loans more than 64 billion RMB. So these are the figures and facts. It's a little bit, how to say, doubt, but somehow I will share it afterwards. And I think this is some of the endeavors China is making. And when it comes to Pakistan in specific, I would say that also as a president, as in the opening remarks, he elaborates that now we come to the second phase of the CPEC. And the second phase actually has a concept of 5 corridors, in which Green Corridor is one of the aspects. So I think will be in line with the Pakistan's own development models that is to achieve the 5 E's, right? You have this kind of the plans. So this synergize, I think, is very important for the second phase to be conducted. And also under this framework, I think we have already had the Sachar wind farm, and which helped to decrease the dioxide by 350,000 tons per year. And we also have the Dawood wind farm in Sindh province, and has a capacity of about 130 million kilowatt hours and benefiting 200,000 local households. And we have the Karat hydropower station, which is the first hydropower project completed under the CPEC. And it can also save about 1.4 million tons of standard coal and reduce the carbon dioxide emission by about 3.5 million tons. And the latest project as the SK hydropower station, it is also can reduce the consumption of the coal by 1.28 million tons and cutting the carbon dioxide emissions by 3.2 million tons. So in the future, I think we do have a large room for cooperations under the green development, including to promote more green energy projects, as well, I think, just to emphasize the market for those EVs and e-bikes here in Pakistan. It is also very encouraging to notice that some of the leading companies in China have also showed interest and made some initial commitment to invest in Pakistan. So this is also something that we have to strive for hand in hand. And we also have to conduct those cross-border carbon credit, as Eunice just mentioned, the carbon market. And we can also figure out the way if we can issue some kind of the CPEC green bonds. I think this is also something that we need to explore. So in different ways, actually, I think China is making our own benefits, but also bring more tangible results to the global South campaigns to conduct this green development. And through different mechanisms, either bilateral or multilaterals, I think China is now a very important contributor, participant, and also the leader to addressing all these issues. And I think China is also willing to work closely with Pakistan and all other developing countries to jointly build the community with shared future and to achieve a more sustainable and greener world in the future. Thanks.
Thank you for the very insightful talk. If you don't mind, there's been a discussion since I've pronounced your name, and we would really like to stand corrected. And I'm glad you mentioned that pronunciation of names can be tricky at times. Is it Mr. Wong Shang Jae? Perfect. Moving on to our next speaker, His Excellency Eric Solheim, who is the Vice President of BRI International Green Development Coalition China. He is the former Executive Director of UN Environment and Under Secretary General of the United Nations. He has also served as Norway's Minister for the Environment and International Development, and we will now have a video message played by him.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for asking me to address this most important conference in Islamabad about the development of the global south. You told me to speak about the role of China, and of course, China is now the indispensable nation for the green transformation of the world. Wasn't always like that. 20 years ago, China was far behind Europe and North America when it comes to the environment, but now China is far ahead of Europe and North America. Look, 10 years ago, I would never go running in Beijing because the pollution was so heavy. Why would I inhale all that black smoke? But now, it's in this winter, wonderful. You see the sun, you see the blue sky, you can inhale any amount of fresh air. So the transformation is enormous. And if we move on to the central Chinese province of Zhejiang, they cleaned up rivers and waterways in a way you haven't seen anywhere else in the world. These rivers and waterways, until quite recently, were nicknamed soya sauce rivers. Not because they tasted nice like soya sauce, but because they were brown and black from pollution. Now they're absolutely wonderfully clean. You can drink from them, you can go for a swim, and there are butterflies, there are birds, and there are fish. Fantastic transformation in a very short period of time. So China is now the indispensable nation. 60% of solar, wind, hydropower, electric batteries, electric cars, high-speed rail, or metros are produced by one nation, and that is China. Last week, I visited Yadeo. Yadeo is the largest producer of electric scooters in the world. Incredibly, they make one new electric scooter every 2 seconds. So just in the few minutes I'm addressing you, Yadeo will make tens, maybe hundreds of electric scooters. And they're now also into the transformation from the old lithium technology into the new, more advanced sodium technology of batteries. These batteries are much less demanding to the environment. They're much cheaper, so the scooter will be even more competitive. And added, they are also performing much better in cold weather, and are much less proof against fires. So there are huge benefits, and China is in the lead. In April this year, China added 45 gigawatt of new solar energy to the grid. Well, that is more than all nations in the world, but 5 have added in the entire lifetime of that nation. So we're speaking about huge developments. I'm very glad to notice that solar energy is now also taking off in Pakistan at high speed, and that last year Pakistan were among the world leaders in the increase in solar energy. So congratulations with that great development. But of course, China is far ahead of everyone else of us. China is also leader when it comes to green conservation, and most people may not have noticed that. But China is the biggest tree planter in the world. 1/4 of all new afforestation areas on the planet is in China. China has embarked upon a massive national park system, which will compete with the American national park system. And China is the leader on conservation of many species, giant panda in Sichuan, gibbons in Hainan, or snow leopards in the western areas of China, on the borders to Kazakhstan and Pakistan and others. China is now doing very well on protection of species. So when we combine these two, very good on conservation, leading on all the green technologies, China has a lot to offer as a source of inspiration, but also as a source of investment in the global south. The Belt and Road Initiative, where Pakistan is a key partner, is a very important initiative. 150 nations in the world, all developing nations except India, are parties to the Belt and Road. More than 120 nations in the world have China as the #1 trade partner. So China's role in Spreading technology and bringing investment is absolutely critical. I strongly encourage all the key Chinese companies in the green revolution to invest more abroad. We want to see Chinese investment in green corridors. For example, the China-Laos rail corridor was just opened. In Indonesia, the Bandung to Jakarta railroad has been supported by China. In Africa, you have seen the Mombasa to Nairobi or the Djibouti to Addis Ababa rail corridors. China is behind many green corridors. Added, China can invest in solar and wind and hydropower, all the green energies. Added to all this, President Xi has recently said that Belt and Road should not focus only on big investments and green investments, which of course are very important, but it should also focus more on what they consider small and beautiful projects, more about people-to-people contact, libraries, art, sport, education, all these softer aspects of human life, which are as important as the hard infrastructure. But of course, we need both. We need both green infrastructure and the softer sport, art, library part of our development. So thank you so much for asking me to address this very important issue. China is now ahead of anyone else in the world in the green development, and every nation who want to go green need to work with China. Otherwise, it will be much more costly, be much slower, and we will be behind when it comes to the technology, because the more you interact with China, the more you can benefit from their investment potential, their trade, and their technologies. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank His Excellency Eric Solheim for his compelling and impactful remarks. I now request Mr. Hamza Haroon to kindly proceed with the panel discussion. I request everybody in the audience to put their phones on silent mode so the proceedings can take place smoothly. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so much to President Johar, President for Institute of Regional Studies. I know we are a bit tight on time. So what we'll do is, I was texting Mustafa and he messaged me back. He said, let's spice this up. So we'll spice it up and we'll make sure we'll do a rapid round with all the amazing panelists that we have here up on the stage. I also must say, can we get Red on the screen? Red is on Zoom. Can we get him on screen, please? We're also joined by Red, who is also here with us on Zoom. So what I'll quickly do is, I'll just do a quick introduction, and then I'll get on to the questions. And then hopefully we have time for some questions from all of you here. Dr. Khalid Walid is a research fellow at SDPI. He is a PhD in energy economics with over 10 years of experience in energy sector. His expertise includes energy markets, energy poverty, energy transition, all things energy, sustainable future resources, carbon markets, and econometrics. So thank you so much, Dr. Khalid Walid, for being up here. Our next panelist is Mohammad Faisal Sharif. He is a seasoned energy and sustainability professional with over 2 decades of experience in Pakistan's power sector. He currently serves as director at the Private Power and Infrastructure Board, PPIB, under Ministry of Energy, where he plays critical role in developing and regulating private power projects. And then we have a dear friend of mine, Mr. Mustafa Haider Sayed, is the executive director of the Pakistan-China Institute. He is international advisor for Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, Green Development Outlook, research led by BRI International Green Development Coalition, BRICS. He was actually recently appointed as inaugural member of BRI Green and Low Carbon Expert Network. Thank you so much, Mustafa, for being here with us. Our 4th panelist has joined us all the way from Philippines as another very dear friend of mine. We've shared some really interesting experiences at COP29. His name is Mr. Red Constantino, who is the International Policy Advisor to the Secretary General of CVFB20, President Nasheed. He was the founding member of the board of People's Survival Fund, the first legislated Philippine adaptation funding mechanism. Mr. Constantino is the managing director of the Constantino Foundation and has worked on international climate policy for over 3 decades. Thank you so much for joining RED. All right, so let's get straight to it. Mr. Khalid Waleed, let's keep it conversational as well, right? We've heard some amazing conversations from Mr. Wang, President IRS, Eric Solheim as well. How do you see this green transition happening, especially when it comes to the global south? And what role do you see China can play in these conversations and in this road towards green development? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hamza. Always a pleasure joining GBF, Excellency, Mr. Wang, my dear friend. I always say that this is not just about environment or climate change alone. It is again the nexus of economy and environment. And for Pakistan, there is another E that I always talk about, and my specialty is energy. So how to bring these 3 E's in one equation? This is what Pakistan needs right now. In silos, there won't be any solution for Pakistan's these multifaceted crises. So how does the energy transition fits in it? We need to build an economic case for it. I highlight 3 economic cases, particularly for Pakistan, where China can directly help and support Pakistan. Obviously, China has built Pakistan's this takeoff stage where we have now taken off, and we need to adjust it a little bit accordingly, or the economic transformation plan, that is Udan Pakistan. We also negotiated a resilience and sustainability facility with IMF now, which means economy is now interlinked with the macro critical aspects of climate change. One thing that emerges from energy sector of Pakistan, particularly power sector of Pakistan, is how we are going to deal with high energy costs that is currently prevailing in Pakistan. And one particular aspect is the blanket subsidies of energy sector. Maybe one way China can support Pakistan is through the solar boom that we are experiencing. With that solar boom, the electricity demand of national grid is coming down. Maybe one way is to add inclusivity to it, build an indigenous production houses in Pakistan through the cooperation of China, and provide these solar panels to these protected consumers, protected electricity consumers, which are consuming this subsidy-led taxpayers' money. Maybe we can rationalize the tariff, and we can initiate this building on Pakistan's national electricity tariff that is rationalized, and we can increase the grid's demand through that way. So inclusivity is one part of it. China can help in this. Second, I think, is a bit tricky, but still Pakistan required this, the use of carbon markets. Recently, Verra, the verifier in terms of carbon markets and standard, global non-standard, they have introduced one methodology known as coal to clean credit initiative. So when I integrate this initiative into the equation of Pakistan's macroeconomics, we'll see that Pakistan has a definite case of bankability, economic viability. Some of the coal power plants, they are underutilized, but still we are paying them the capacity charges. One win-win situation, one economic case could be that we repurpose these power plants using that methodology and early retire, or some sort of a golden handshake initiative for these power plants, and repurpose these power plants into renewable-based power plants. Under that methodology, we will earn millions of carbon credit. Our estimates available on our website tells you that around $1.2 billion can be earned by early retiring one coal power plant and using this initiative. So that's second. Third is Pakistan's wind corridor, which is underutilized. So maybe sector coupling can be one another aspect where China's expertise and cooperation can be leveraged, and we can build another industry of energy storage, particularly in terms of clean hydrogen. That can be done, and we can utilize in the times of wind curtailment, and that sector coupling can help Pakistan out. So these are very three quick thoughts on how Pakistan can leverage this. And lastly, I think South-South cooperation is very important, particularly connecting regions, particularly Middle East, Central Asia, China, to Pakistan using these carbon credit initiative. That could be a very good thing. So yeah, that too.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid. And I think you've highlighted some really important places where China can help us. And I'm going to come back to you once I've gone through the panel and follow up on a few things that you've mentioned, especially on the report that you published on the Sahiwal core plant. I'm now going to go to my friend Mustafa. Mustafa, you've seen this since the start. You and I have had conversation where you've told me, when CPEC started, you were watching, you were part of this, and now you're, sitting in 2025. I want you to think of what lessons can we learn from China, because you've also, traveled through China. You've been to power plants. You've been to many of the places where these decisions are being made. Can you talk about a little bit about their transition towards green energy, and then reflect that back to where are the gaps you see within the global South and in the context of Pakistan as well? And how can we fill those gaps? So over to you, Mustafa.
That's a very wide-ranging question. But I think before we delve into this answer and this question, I think it's very important to celebrate and acknowledge the very successful cooperation that China and Pakistan have been having. And I think it was reflected in the 6 Rafaels that we downed. So I think thank you to China for that contribution that is time-tested. And yesterday, finally, the Indian Defense Chief of Defense Staff at the Shangri-La Dialogue has also admitted to it. So I think on the outside, it's very important to clarify, because there were some voices in Pakistan, over the years of the solidness, the cement, how cemented are Pakistan-China relations. So I think the answer to that was given in the sky 10 days ago. And I think that is the answer that will be etched for history and years to come. But going to Hamza, look, I used to go to Beijing, and I sometimes was in a high floor, in Beijing about 10 years ago, around 2013, 2014. And sometimes I couldn't see outside from the window. It was gray. The sky couldn't be seen. It was not visible. And now when you go, the sky is clear. There's a clear blue sky. And not only in the major 5 cities, which, as you know, are the tier 1 cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Tianjin, etc. But even if you go to the rural areas, even if you go to the non-mainland area, it is a clear sky. And the air quality is very, very good. So that's a testament to where China has come. And I think my brother, Mr. Wang Xingji, who's been contributing to this relationship for a long time, I must say, because he was here before and he's here again, and he's played an important role in both his tenures, is that China has a holistic approach. My friend Khalid Walid said about inclusive. When you talk about China's development approach, it's this, this Xi Jinping thought on ecological civilization is a approach where development, people-centric development, and ecological development intertwine. So it is not, a lot of the times we see development, economic growth, and then we look at climate change in isolation. So it has to be looked at in sync in our outlook. And that means that we have to have a whole of the nation approach, which we've also worked on together in our respective national security workshop groups, a whole of the nation approach, which we have for counterterrorism, which we have for national security issues, which we have for core national interests. We have to have a whole of country approach. And I think that FCDO did a great report, The Cost of Inaction. We have to understand that not working or not doing something on it has this quantifiable monetary cost. And Hamza, I think another thing which is very important is that we are very lucky that we have so many cooperation mechanisms with China at a time when the United States has withdrawn from a lot of key multilateral platforms. We see that China is making a lot of progress. But I do feel that we need to step up our game in actually learning, engaging, and having consequential engagement with the People's Republic of China, because as Mr. Wang Shengji said, whether it's EVs, whether Dr. Khalid said solar panel manufacturing, which is already happening in Vietnam, or whether it is investment in grid, in improving our grid efficiency, having a smart grid, or whether it is, even very small steps in actually having indigenous technology, green industrial park. I had the privilege of visiting very recently in Shenzhen, the CECEP. It's a state-owned company, but it's listed in the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. So it works as a corporate green business leader in China. It has 150 subsidiaries. And their group had invited me to the green industrial park that they've made. And contrary to conventional wisdom, where we say that industrial park needs swaths of land, because it's smart industrial park powered with renewable energy and sustainable through battery storage systems and whatnot. They have very high output. Of course, it's more technology products and technology growth that is there. It's not logistical industrial parks, or it's more high tech. It's more green, but they have made these and they're successful. And these companies are willing to go out and come here. But I think we have to have a more proactive approach in our ask. And that is very important, because what we see, Hamza, is there's so much happening on climate. And a lot of the times, people in positions are attending conferences. They're attending dialogues from pillar to post, giving speeches, reading policy papers. But what is actually getting done? I think that's a question that we have to ask ourselves. What is actually getting done? And I asked I had some friends from the Board of Investment once. They did a lot of road shows, and I said, how many of these MOUs did actually became investments? These MOUs were great in five-star hotels, but how many of them became investment? So I think we have to have a very clear ask, and we need to have a focused group to engage with China on climate change. And I think the receptiveness from the other side, from China, is there. But I think we need to have internal crystal clarity.
Thank you so much, Mustafa. I think absolutely that deserves an applause. I think what you've highlighted really hits the nail on the head. Focused, proactive, holistic, and consequential engagement. So we will definitely continue working through parts of these conversations. And of course, the things that you and I have been working on, we'll try to make sure that we hit on those areas. All right, over to Red. Red, can you hear us?
Loud and clear, Hamza.
Great, great. Thank you so much. So, Red, you've heard Mustafa, you've heard Khalid. I'm just going to pose a question to you, and then you may decide however you want to answer. As the policy advisor to CVF V20, how do you envision this role, this cooperation between China and the Global South in advancing climate prosperity for vulnerable economies? So over to you, Red.
Thank you, Hamza. Assalamu alaikum to everyone in the room. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a very important activity, and I think the question to many might seem too broad, but in this forum, I think we can be really even more exact. There's been a lot of time, many decades, since a lot of upheavals and movements and revolutions have been fought. And I think one thing that hasn't changed, especially since our colleagues from the Embassy of China have also spoken Mr. Wang has been quite clear in what he has said, especially about what President Xi Jinping has been sharing for a number of years now. One thing hasn't changed, and we are still really trying to push for self-reliance, self-determination. The big thing that's changed, however, is that we have more emphasis on the South supporting the South. The cooperation element has become even more clear now, especially after the West has undressed itself time and again, especially this year, as not an unreliable partner only, but as a partner that is more interested in advancing its own gains. The South supporting the South is even more critical, especially when it comes to the role of countries like China, because they're very conscious, Hamza, of where they came from. And this consciousness means that we have a partner that is looking at similar horizons, and countries like the members of CVF and V20, Pakistan included, but over 70 more countries, are more keen to pursue the future, the kind of future that China is chasing, and not get stuck on the past that it is leaving behind. Are the challenges great? Yes, for sure. Because when it comes to struggles for self-determination, especially in a climate crisis, the aspect of voice and representation is very important. And as our earlier speaker, Sarah Jane Ahmed, had explained, we have issues on debt. Cost of capital is preventing us from taking a different direction. Capital outflows are horrific and preventing development from fully realizing its potential. And this is where partnership of the South with the South comes in, practical things. Because unlike the West, we're not about mere environmental protection. When China and our colleagues in Pakistan talk about eco-civilization, it's not about random trees or random animals. It's about people at the center living with a planet based on our own limitations. And that means it's more than just technology. With our partnership and a rapid transformation, for instance, towards a modern energy system, we are not chasing emissions reductions. Emissions reductions will come because we want a more modern, powered economy that protects us against volatility, which is what is punishing most of the economies in the developing world today. And so it's a practical imperative for the South to help the South to chase prosperity rather than emissions reductions, which continue to be the responsibility of rich countries, and to reach out constantly for partners, for meaningful partnership, knowing that the South can only fully really rely on other members of the South. And we have strong partners in this case with China. We must go the full route. We must realize our full potentials and know who our real partners are. That's it, Hamza.
Thank you so much, Red, for those comments, and I completely agree. It is time that we take this partnership forward into consequential engagements. That is very, very critical. Now over to Faisal. Faisal, we've had several discussions, especially, in your senior policymaker role at PPIB. How do you see Pakistan's climate and development priorities aligning with the broader narrative that sits within the Green BRI? I know you've been at the forefront at PPIB. What have you seen and where do you see this going?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I would like to mention that I would like to answer this question from two complementary perspectives. The first one is my role at PPIB where I am looking for environmental initiatives and also this time because PPIB is leading the mitigation part of NDC 3.0. So I'm also managing matters related to NDC 3 mitigation part compilation. Secondly, because I'm also a doctoral researcher at the University of Bath under UK Economic and Social Research Council scholarship, and where I have my area of research is political economy of energy transition. And I have very strong focus on socio-political, economic policy, and justice implications of energy transition. And I'm also part of China Global Infrastructure Investment, Sustainability Governance of China Global Infrastructure Investment projects at the University of Bath, which is 1.7 billion pound projects, which brings policymakers, researchers from different parts of the world to assess the sustainability impact of China's projects on different member countries. STPI is our international partner from Pakistan there. So first, I would like to give just a brief background that how China is important. Obviously, it's the largest trade nation, and with growing trade restriction from global north, it has further shifted its focus towards the global south, which reflect 85% population of the world. So China, obviously, it's a dominant force in green development, green manufacturing, particularly solar PVs, wind turbines, battery storage. And by 2023, China's have invested, I think, more than 546 billion in the other countries as an overseas investment. And that number, I think, has further increased by 2024, might be $900 billion. So it's around $900 billion. Secondly, starting from 2011, China's share in global PV manufacturing has reached beyond 90%. So this is like a major chunk of the PV manufacturing in the globally that China is owning 90%. And then I think that another important factor is that only during first half of 2023 is that why I'm mentioning these facts, because that shows that how China is basically influencing the low carbon development across the globe, not only in global north, but largely in global south. And in first half of 2023, China imported more than 114 gigawatt of solar PVs, which was almost the same as they imported previous year. So just in first half, they imported 114 gigawatt. And then recently in November 24, China, particularly in G20 summit at Rio, they announced 8 initiatives focused on technology connectivity and climate action, particularly for global south. So the strategic shift of China towards low carbon developments obviously offers a opportunity for a country like Pakistan, who is not only the climate vulnerability, despite having very low contribution in the global emission, and have very ambitious targets for carbon emission reduction under this NDC2. So it offers a great opportunities for a country like Pakistan to leapfrog on the sustainable development side and to translate towards the clean energy. Secondly, under BRI, Pakistan, I think, is one of the most crucial partner of China through CPEC. So only in energy sector, China has committed around $35 billion investments, comprising of projects of 13 gigawatts. And so far, by end of 2024, most of those projects have been processed by PPIB. By end of 2024, the projects of 8.9 gigawatt have already been commissioned, and they have been supplying electricity to a nation grid. In parallel to, because most of the portion of these projects comprises of coal, but in parallel, the Chinese investment banks and the lenders and their companies have also invested in low carbon development. So in this investment, $4.9 billion is invested in the low carbon development, the hydro and the wind and solar projects. So, further, these projects have not only added a reliable electricity to the grid, but they have a huge socio-economic impact. In 2013, Pakistan was facing a load shedding of more than 10 hours, 12 hours, even in rural areas around 18 hours. So that was kind of a great help and support from a friendly country that help us to bridge the demand supply gap and supply reliable electricity to. What happened next, that was another story, because that was something on our part. Here we cannot blame China for the overcapacity. There was some kind of macroeconomic volatility, the political instability, and some kind of issue in the demand forecasting that we could not achieve that kind of projections in the growth that that capacity turned into some kind of surplus capacity, and that turned into the circular debt. But at the same time, they helped to socio-economic developments. These projects created more than 200,000 jobs during last 10-15 years. Under CPEC, through different programs, so far Pakistani students have availed, I think, more than 20,000 scholarships in Chinese universities. So with the start of BRI, China have increasing role in Pakistan energy sector. And recently we have seen accelerated growth of solar distributed installations, net metering and off net metering in urban and rural areas. So those solar import is largely from the China. So again, China is playing an important role. Again, there's another debate from an independent researcher point of view. That is something which we need to map out. We need to document out, because most of the off-grid solar installations are not documented, and that is creating issue for the policy perspective, from planning perspective, from grid stability perspective. So here again, the responsibility of government institutions and the regulator come in, that they need to document it, and they need to map it proper for the energy stability and energy security purpose. But having said that, China has very important role. Now the issue is that because Pakistan is now the second largest market in the solar import after Europe, and during 2023, I think I have these findings are from my research of Volza database. So it shows that in 2023, around 900 buyers from Pakistan imported 8,000 shipment from 700 Chinese buyers, Chinese exporters. So that shows that how Pakistan is a growing market for the solar installations due to increasing electricity prices, greater electricity prices, and declining solar prices. But at the same time, Pakistan need to avail this opportunity, and there's a huge potential of solar PV installation in Pakistan. Keeping in view, it's time to localize the solar PV chain. So I think government has very strong focus recently, and government is trying to have some localization, some Chinese industry in Pakistan for solar manufacturing. And as Mustafa mentioned that the recent conflict with India, we all have seen that how the indigenization is important. This was JF-17 Thunder. So how that is important for the nation security point of view and from the energy security point of view. So it's time to move towards more indigenization of solar manufacturing. And here we can obviously avail the opportunity from Chinese investments and from Chinese shift towards the green development. So that's my take on this, that we need to move towards indigenization of solar manufacturing particularly.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Faisal, for those amazing points. And you're right, indigenization is going to be key. And I think we've all learned from the recent experience. So we have 6.5 minutes remaining, which is quite interesting. What we could do is, if you guys agree, we could do a one round of questioning from the crowd, because I think, it's better to hear from them than to keep on listening my mundane voice. So Zishan, can you please? Thank you. Please, can you?
Assalamu alaikum ji. I'm Iram Mumtaz. I'm an educationist. And thank you, Hamza, for inviting me. And Mr. Khalid, you forgot one most important E, that is education. As an educationist, I feel that we need to revamp the system here. Thank God our Chinese guest is not here to, hear what I'm sharing. Of course, all of us know about the challenges in the bureaucracy, what happens, and disconnect between the different organizations, different institutions, government institutions. China is our old friend, bachpan se leke ab tak, we have been hearing stories, and they prove their loyalty to us. But the saddest part is, whatever the world is offering to us, the bureaucracy, the loopholes in our system, and the education system, the ancient education system is so flawed. I'm a remedial therapist working with dyslexic children. We got the dyslexia bill approved, and we are still running after the education ministry for the past 2 years, free of cost, to get the bill implemented. So the biggest challenge is this. People are willing to help us out, but when the will to do is not there, and not choosing the right person for the right job, that is what messes up the system. And one objection, out of all these esteemed guests, there was only one female. So this discrimination you have to control next time.
Absolutely on point on that one. We actually had one guest who could not come, but you are absolutely right. We'll make sure that that doesn't happen again. Thank you so much for that. Actually, do you want to answer? Do you want to answer that before we get the next question? Apologies, ma'am. Just very quick. Thank you.
I am a very big fan of, let me get theoretical economics in here. A big fan of indigenous economic growth theory, which tells you that if you want to grow beyond your steady state, you need to divide your labor into two categories. One should be a productive labor, second should be a research labor. And the whole TOR's duty of the research labor is to make the job of productive labor more innovative, more productive, more efficient. So now we need to connect these two type of labor, which we are not connecting. Our academia and industry, they are not connected, which should happen. And then the policy arena. So again, integration is the key, and we need to bring that methodology, which is kind of coming into the fold of the policy making, particularly if you see it from the perspective of Udan Pakistan. Maybe that is more theoretical, but it should be implemented. But still, we are in that phase. Learning from China is very important. They have made their universities the engine of growth. They have professors of practice there. They have integrated that. So we need to bring that up. So yeah, totally agreed.
Great. Zishan, whoever had the hand first.
Assalamu alaikum ji. My name is Darvia Bukhari. And Iram is a very, very dear friend, so I must take a cue from her. It's really great that we're looking towards China as a technology partner and help us out in saving our environment and climate and everything. But China cannot inculcate how we should be saving our environment, really. That has to come from within us. And I don't see that happening. So education definitely is a very major role in this. And I want to know what the government can do, or the think tanks that we have, what actual steps are being taken. I mean, yesterday, I'll just give you a personal example. In the heart of Islamabad, where everybody is, 100% literacy, we had a fire for the last 3 days in F8 sector. And it was man-made because they were trying to burn the kachra, or whatever you call it, waste. I mean, how can you have a clean environment when you are actually doing it yourself? So China cannot help us there. We will have to really think within ourselves. That is my 2 bits on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Dr. Khalid, you need to beg leave because I know you have a very important meeting. So thank you once again for joining us and for your comments. And I hope we can continue having you on the panels and hearing from you. So thank you once again. Thank you so much. No, 1 second. We still have 2 panelists here, 3 panelists here, so we can continue. And Mustafa, do you want to answer that question?
नहीं, मैडम आपका बड़ा जायज सवाल है, लेकिन I think you know the answer to that as well. It's not related to China or anything. We are a developing country. Crop burning, trash burning is all over South Asia. I guess it comes in the purview of the CDA. It also, I think, local community पे भी होता है. People should object. But I've seen that in so-called educated people, they're littering, they're contributing to destroying park spaces. We see people building houses on public property. Every house in any street which has green area, they cordon it, and they pay a little money to a junior person in the municipality corporation or the city, and they destroy the green belt for increasing their house space. So ये तो थोड़ा सा I think conscientious citizens की भी बात आती है, and I think inclusive approach of climate की भी बात है कि इसमें हमने ये छोटे जो baby steps हैं उन पे क्या action किया है. इसमें obviously China का तो कोई role नहीं है, but we have to familiarize the whole genre of society, all echelons. सिर्फ इस hall के अंदर बैठ के climate की तो हमें नहीं समझ आएगी, लेकिन you're right that burning does it adds a lot of emissions and destroys the environment. बल्कि सर्दियां जो थी अभी winter उसमें our air quality was very poor, Islamabad की, and a lot of children were asked not in schools. Schools were asking children in Islamabad not to play outside in the playground.
True.
A city which is surrounded by mountains and with not that big of a population. So obviously there's something missing and something amiss.
Faisal, you want to say a few lines?
I think you so much. I would like to add something. Thank you so much. It's a really pertinent question. But when it comes to environment and climate change, obviously, there's a concept of collective action. So it's not just the government can do, or the society can do, or individual can do. So everyone need to take actions at his own end, or her own end. So there are three tiers, like the government should come up with implementable policies, plans, and regulations. The corporations should come up with sustainable practices, and then individual should adopt a climate friendly like lifestyle. So जैसे अभी आपने एजुकेशन की बात की, तो आई थिंक अवेयरनेस इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, क्योंकि यहाँ पे बैठे हुए लोगों को तो एनवायरमेंट का आइडिया है, क्लाइमेट का आइडिया है, लेकिन पर्टिकुलरली बिकॉज इट्स समथिंग इनटेंजिबल, क्योंकि इसका फौरी इफेक्ट नजर नहीं आ रहा होता आप लोगों को। आप इस्लामाबाद से बाहर जाएंगे तो ये चीजें लोगों के लिए शायद रेलिवेंट नहीं रहेंगी, क्योंकि उनकी इमीडिएट नीड्स बहुत ज्यादा है। आप अवेयरनेस उनको देनी है कि जी देखिए, रिसेंटली वी हैव सीन लॉट ऑफ एक्सट्रीम वेदर्स इन इस्लामाबाद। तो अब तो इट्स नॉट समथिंग कि जिस पे आप बात करें आपको नजर आ रहा है कि हर दूसरे दिन आप एक्सट्रीम वेदर देख रहे हैं, डैमेज हो रहा है। तो आप इट्स टाइम कि आप लोगों को अवेयर करेंगे कि इसका भी उतना ही बड़ा एक कॉस्ट है जो कि आपको नजर नहीं आ रही, लेकिन मे बी विद इन फ्यू इयर्स यू वुड बी पेइंग दैट कॉस्ट। तो अवेयरनेस इज इंपॉर्टेंट। अभी सर एक मैं थोड़ा सा मेंशन करूंगा कि हमारा वहाँ पे यूनिवर्सिटी में एक हमारे कोर्स होता है क्लाइमेट लिटरेसी कोर्स। So that climate literacy course gives you like you need to submit your own pledge, carbon pledge, कि आप अपना एक साल का pledge देंगे कि how you will reduce your own emissions, ठीक है, your and your family emission। तो ये एक बिल्कुल पर्सनल लेवल की कमिटमेंट है कि आप एक साल के बाद आप देखें कि आप अपना जो कार्बन फुटप्रिंट है वो कहाँ रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं। देयर आर लॉट ऑफ जो स्पेसीज हैं जहाँ पे आप कम कर सकते हैं। तो आपको थोड़ी सी अवेयरनेस आती है, आप थोड़ा सा अवेयर होते हैं। तो आई थिंक यू पर्टिकुलरली योर फोरम कैन बी यूज्ड टू like initiate such kind of short courses, carbon literacy courses या environment। उससे थोड़ा सा जो यहाँ के लोग हैं उनमें तो at least aware आए ना कि आप जब एक चीज commit करते हैं तो then you try to like implement it, you try to achieve the target।
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for the question. It goes back to what Madam Iram was saying on education and awareness, and that's a critical component of that E that was missing, quote unquote, from Dr. Khalid's thing. We'll take one final round of questions because I want to be cognizant of the time of the panelists and of course you guys as well. So over to you, and then we'll have the final verdict.
Thank you. So my name is Alia Agha. I'm editor of Margala Tribune, and we focus a lot on climate change. Margala Tribune, and we focus a lot on climate change. My question is that there's a fine line when we are defining, as you talked about MOUs. So there's a fine line. Whose responsibility is it? We're going B2B, we're going P2P, we're going P2V. I think we need to identify some tiers as well when it comes to south to south. There's a lot happening with the government to government, right? So we need to understand what is happening with the businesses. As you said, the MOUs never really trickle down to real impact. How do we actually come down to that point where we see, yes, there is technology transfer. Most businesses or most MOUs, we want to make them profitable. So we want to see how much investment is coming. But is climate really about the financial investment, or is it really about tackling the problem that the entire world is handling? Thank you.
Great question. What we'll do is, Mustafa, you can take the first stab at it, and then let's do a 1-minute roundup from each of you on what action needs to happen next. So over to you.
Dekhanji, I think that it has to be incentivized, right? If you talk about MOUs and you talk about projects, they have to be commercially and bankable projects, because there is philanthropy capital coming in global south countries. But when you talk about businesses, it has to be commercial. It has to be a commercial deal that makes sense, right? And I think there's an important role of regulators here. And I've been talking about this, and I think, for example, NEPRA has to be a very important part of the conversation in Pakistan, because PPIB is here and they'll attest to this, that they've advertised renewable bids, international bids, but they haven't received any attention, right? There have been meetings in the Prime Minister's office of hundreds of megawatts park here, hundreds of megawatts park there. Let's be honest, but they did not receive a serious bid from a foreign investor. So why is that the case? Why is it that in certain countries there are renewable investments coming and not here? So, and why does it have to be a G2G deal? Why can't it be an attractive tariff? So I think we need to upgrade our tariff in regulatory infrastructure. We need to also upgrade our criteria for selecting the policymakers in the regulators. How are they chosen? What is the criteria and process? Are they familiar with international tariff regimes in neighboring countries, in ASEAN countries, in Indonesia, Thailand, where there's a lot of renewable investment coming from China? So I think that is a very important part. And secondly, I think we have a lot of finance that has come in fossil fuel projects. So our system and our financial ecosystem is more wired towards fossil fuel projects because there's a lack of familiarity also in dealing with green projects, right? So that is also very, very important. And I think there's another important aspect is that we don't have a governance system of green projects. Like if for example, an investor comes here and they say, we want to make a green industrial park. So who will handle that? The SIFC, BOI, Ministry of Climate Change, and do they have the relevant skill set to actually engage and adapt and adopt that and actually get that project done? So I think we need to, again, I think China can be a very important partner in helping us first make the regulatory regime, because I don't want to make this a very long answer, but Hamza, you know that countries where investment comes, their leaders don't have to go to countries to ask for investment. If you have an attractive regulatory regime, investment comes naturally. Investors, this is a supply and demand sort of a situation. Investment comes where there is an attractive regulatory regime, where there is a bankable projects which they know they'll make money. You don't have to go to countries to ask for them to invest in your country. So, I mean, if you look at Saudi Arabia right now, there's a gold rush. A lot of companies are going there. Everyone's pivoting. They made a regulatory regime which is robust, and they know that this will not be changing. They know that there will be policy consistency and certainty. So I think that's the very crux of the matter.
Thank you. I think PPP advertised projects did not receive bid, so there were certain reasons. Obviously, as Mustafa mentioned, the policy inconsistency, the political instability, and then secondly, the benchmark tariff which was given by NEPRA, that was not kind of satisfactory for the investors. It was not covering the whole risk, the country risk. So there were many reasons. Might be a bad timing as well, but I will not discuss that issue. But I think while moving forward, because energy is the major component of the net zero. Globally, it emits 75% of the emissions. In Pakistan, our energy sector contributes 45% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. If we talk about carbon, only carbon emissions might be 90%. So decarbonization of energy sector is one of the most crucial component to achieve net zero. For that, we are accelerating renewable energy projects, setting target of 60% renewable. And as of today, with net metering and off-grid solar installation, we are already touching 50%. Though most of those off-grid are undocumented, but because energy justice, climate justice is my research area. So I think it's time that we should come out of obsession of these large grid-connected projects. Because from energy justice point of view, these large grid-connected projects, whether these are fossil fuels or these are renewable projects, they serve the purpose of some large economic group, unfortunately. Secondly, we have different country risk. We are receiving the same markup and interest rates on the financing for which we were receiving for the fossil fuels. So there's no difference in terms of the financial terms for the renewable projects or the fossil fuel projects. So it's time that we should promote the decentralization, but in a balanced way, not in a way what we are witnessing right now, because that is not something the government is doing. That is people-led transition, and unfortunately, that is not documented. That may create a Nokia in the near future. So we need to come up with a holistic approach, a very balanced approach, move out of these conventional project finance model for these projects and move towards more sustainable and innovative financing to particularly transmit the benefit toward end consumer, particularly the localized, the poor and marginalized people who have been facing the historical inequalities in the energy supply. So this is time that this transition should address their issues. So then only that will be just. Otherwise, there will be no difference between the fossil fuel based projects and the renewable. Only there is kind of the switching one fuel towards the renewable sources, nothing else.
We would also like a quick final comment from Mr. Red.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Just to be very quick, there are certain truths that prevail, whether you're in Pakistan or the Philippines or in the Pacific Islands or in Latin America. And that is that it will be a mistake to pursue climate protection or environmental protection as much as what I think we should be pursuing, which is when we pay attention to the needs of our population and prioritize shelter, food, jobs, and health, we create immense emissions reductions as a co-benefit. So rather than chase what the Western countries, the rich countries are telling us to do, which is to reduce our emissions, which is their responsibility, we need to pay attention to what our people need. And as an outcome, we actually get to produce even greater emissions reductions and at the same time enjoy the support of the public because they will understand that greater climate action actually prioritizes their needs. And at the same time, as a bonus, as a co-benefit, produces global goods in terms of climate protection. Lastly, I think cooperation is key, and that's why I opened my response based on what Hamza was asking, which is what is South-South cooperation and what is prosperity? I think we need to be clear that it is not enough to simply go for climate protection or self-reliance or self-determination. We need to work with one another. And this is why CVF and V20 is going to stand out and going to achieve its objectives, because we are banding together our resources, our intellectual capabilities, and also our experience and expertise. We are the first group of countries that have pledged to tackle the climate question through the leadership of our economic managers, not just our foreign affairs colleagues and our environmental protection colleagues as well. We need our economic managers to stay at the forefront as well. That's why we have the V20 group of finance ministers, and we continue to pioneer our steps, which is why we are the first association of countries to form a central bankers group, including a debt advisory group that would harness the expertise that resides in Asia, developing Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa. And that is the only way to go. I think if we keep reminding ourselves to put our people first and reach out to our fellow Southern countries, then we will prevail over this climate crisis, whether or not the West or the rich countries do their part. They need to, they should. In the meantime, justice will also rely on us, on our own steps, as members of the audience have said. Thank you very much again for having me.
Thank you. To formally conclude today's session, I now invite Mr. Hamza Haroon, Regional Director for South Asia CVF V20, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Well, thank you once again to the Institute for Regional Studies, President Ambassador Jawhar Saleem, Dr. Anjum, the incredible folks that work at Institute of Regional Studies. Thank you so much for helping us make sure that these conversations take place. I also want to thank the leadership of Ms. Sarah Jane Ahmed, who's our Managing Director for CVF V20, for giving us the flexibility in making sure that we can have these conversations with you all. I want to thank the esteemed panelists, Mustafa, Faisal, Dr. Khalid, Red in Philippines, for taking out the time and being here and speaking to us on this important matter. I want to thank Additional Secretary Zulfikar Yunus, who was here, His Excellency Mr. Wang Shijing, who was here as well, who delivered some really important remarks for all of us. And I want to thank all of you for being here and having, taking out the time and listening and asking really pertinent questions. I do believe in our society, we've given less value to questions and more value to lip service. So I'm glad that you asked those questions that are very important. I also want to say that this will continue. This conversation series with Institute for Regional Studies will continue. We will continue to have amazing panelists like we did today, and we hope to see all of you come through and ask questions, because that is your right. Because the moment we start asking tough questions, the moment we start deliberating on them, the moment we start putting them on paper and taking action, as Mustafa said, consequential action, that's when change starts to happen. So I look forward to seeing you all very soon again. And I will continue working with our panelists as we work on the Pakistan Climate Prosperity Plan. We're working on the plan with the Ministry of Finance and, of course, with other critical stakeholders. Thank you once again, and look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Haroon. I now request him to kindly present souvenirs to the remaining guests. We will first have Mr. Mustafa Haider Sayed, Executive Director, Pakistan China Institute,